Hey guys, it's day 83 of the New Testament in 90 days. Today we are looking at Revelation chapter 7 and 8. So over the course of the last couple days, we have looked at some different things happening in the book of Revelation. There's this common theme of 7, and we're going to see that happen again in these two chapters. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yesterday we finished off, there's this scroll, seals are being broken on this scroll. We get through 6 of those seals and what those all meant and all of that. That was yesterday. And then all of a sudden there's this break. And in the midst of the break, that's where we catch up today. So starting in chapter 7, John explains to us, so John's the writer of Revelation, he explains to us he sees 4 angels kind of like at the 4 corners of the earth holding back the wind. And it says that this wind had like the power to harm the land, the sea, to like kind of bring destruction on the earth. And then all of a sudden another angel comes in, yells to these 4 angels. He says, wait, don't harm the land or the sea or the trees until we've placed the seal of God on the foreheads of his servants. Now, obviously, Revelation, there's a meaning. God's trying to paint a picture for us. He's trying to give us an understanding of what's to come. But some of this stuff is not necessarily, it's like it means something that it doesn't really mean, okay? And we don't really have the full understanding of everything in this book. So I'm not going to try to explain what the 4 corners and the 4 angels and all of this stuff means and when it's going to happen, because I don't know. But I want to tell you what I see when I read these first 4 chapters. As soon as I see this angel come in and say, wait, don't harm the earth until we have placed a seal on the servants of God, I see like God's withholding. He's patient is basically what I'm trying to get at. I see the patience and the mercy of God. And so if you remember, we jump back to yesterday when the 5th seal was broken. We see the people in heaven who had been martyred for their faith. So faithful servants of Jesus who had been martyred for their faith. And they're asking, okay, when is this all going to end, right? And again, they were told the same thing. It's like, hey, there's more people that will be martyred for their faith, and we have to get them all here. We cannot finish this right now. We have to wait. And so we see this again. It's like, wait, there's a patience. At least that's what's popping into my head. That's what I see here. Wanted to share that with you because I do 100% believe that God is patient, that I think we can look and we can say, oh, well, Jesus died, over 2,000 years ago. He said he was coming soon and he still hasn't been back. And we can kind of like jeer at the Bible. But if we really understand God's love and mercy and patience, he doesn't want people to die apart from him. He wants us all. And so he's patiently waiting for those of us who will turn to him. And so that's kind of what I see in here. I want to share that with you. And then it jumps in. So in chapter 7, verses 5 through 8, we see these crowds of people that are like, in heaven. So the first group is 144,000 people. It says that they were sealed from all the tribes of Israel. And then it lifts off 12,000 from this tribe, 12,000 from that tribe, 12,000 from this tribe. The interesting thing is that there were 12 tribes of Israel in the Old Testament. And now there's 12 tribes listed and there's 12,000 people from each one. It's just an interesting, like these 12s. I don't know, like numbers, like what does that mean, God? All these numbers that you see, these commonalities between things. And there's a purpose in it, but this could be just like a figurative thing where we see God's plan. We see the consistency and it's interesting because the groups from Israel are listed first. And then right after that, John says, after he saw these tribes, all these people from these tribes, then he saw a vast crowd, too great to count, from every nation and tribe and people and language, standing in front of the throne and before the Lamb. They were clothed in white robes, held palm branches in their hands, and they were shouting with a great roar, "Salvation comes from our God who sits on the throne and from the Lamb." And so essentially, we kind of get this concept in heaven that people are there, they're worshiping God. And just like, we see in the New Testament, like Jesus says, salvation goes first for the Jews and then to the Gentiles. And so it's like we see that order here as well. Like the Jews are listed first, and then the Gentiles, and it creates this massive crowd of everybody who is just there worshiping God. So it's very, very cool. Okay, this I thought was really cool. So it goes on and says, let's see. They're talking about these people that are dressed in white, and there's a question asked, like, who are these people? These are the ones who've died, they've washed their robes in the blood of the Lamb and have made them white. And then it says this, which I just think is so beautiful. It says that they're standing in front of God's throne. They're serving him day and night in his temple. And it says that they will never again be hungry or thirsty. They'll never be scorched by the heat of the sun, for the Lamb on the throne will be their shepherd. He'll lead them to springs of living water, and God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. And so just this beautiful picture of, when we follow Jesus, sometimes life on earth is not great, and so we become followers of Jesus. Doesn't mean that everything is always up and to the right, everything's always perfect, but someday we have that promise that the things that sadden us here won't sadden us anymore, right? That our tears will be wiped away. There's like no more crying, and being led to springs of living water. I mean, just this beautiful picture of like abundance and joy in heaven. And so I just thought that was really cool. And I think more than anything in Revelation, I think we get so bogged down in the details trying to understand, what does that mean? And what does that mean? And what are all these 7s and 12s and all of that stuff? And we can get bogged down in those details. But for me, I think it's just really important to look and say, okay, what do we see about God's character, right? So we see that he's merciful in waiting and withholding what we deserve until people can come to him. Like we see his mercy, and then we see his provision, and he's our sustainer and the giver of joy. And so I see these cool attributes of God about his character in Revelation, which is really cool. So then in chapter 8, the first thing that happens is the 7th seal on that scroll is broken open. And it says that there was silence throughout heaven for about half an hour, which is really crazy because we've talked about how there's it's like incessant worship in heaven. Like it's never ending. Worthy, 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 holy, 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 going on all the time. And then all of a sudden it goes silent. I don't know why, but it just sounds like, I don't know. I don't know if people would be like scared, nervous. I don't know. It just is interesting. That's what happens with the 7th seal. And then all of a sudden we have a new 7. So we have 7 angels standing before God. They're given 7 trumpets. And then in chapter 8, the first 4 angels blow their trumpets, and with each trumpet blast, a different disaster comes upon the earth. The interesting thing is that each disaster only affects 1/3 of what it's intended to affect. So it's like it affects 1/3 of the trees, 1/3 of the water, and so on and so forth. And again, what I was thinking about as I was kind of processing through this is, we can look at these types of things, and depending on where our mind is at, where our gaze is set, we'll see different things about God. And so before I became a Christian, I was not living for God. And so I was like, hell was my destination. That's where I was headed. That's where my gaze was fixed, right? And so when I'd see something, I'd be like, God, how could you send me there? How could you call yourself loving if that's where you're sending me? But that's because that's where my mind was fixed. My mind was fixed on that position. But if my mind is fixed on heaven, if that's where I know where I'm going and my mind is fixed there, and I see, oh my gosh, look at what I deserved, and then you're giving me this instead, and my perspective turns from fear to gratitude, right? And so when I look at this, I think in a past, years past, I could have probably looked at this and been like, what are you doing? Why are you wrecking 1/3 of the trees and 1/3 of the water and 1/3 of this and 1/3 of that? How could you do that? That would bring devastation upon the earth. Why would you do that? And now I look and I'm like, thank you for only doing it to 1/3, because we really deserve all of it. We deserve the full gamut of your wrath, but you're withholding. Like, and again, I don't know if that's what the 1/3 means and all of this stuff, but that's just what I see. You know, that's what I see when I'm reading this. I see, again, God's character, his mercy in that. And then it says chapter 8 ends with an eagle flying through the air, crying out. He says, terror, terror, terror to all who belong to this world because of what will happen when the last 3 angels blow their trumpets. So I don't know what's coming. We'll find out here in the next couple days, but whatever it is going to be worse. And so again, it's just like, it's like the warnings, right? These things are happening, but there's a warning, you know, don't be caught. Don't be caught on that side. Don't be a friend of the world, right? Like, and so it reminded me as I was reading that, it's in Matthew. This is Jesus. I'm going to turn back to it real quick. But Matthew 16, verses 24 and 26. I'm sorry, 24 through 26. I'm sorry, let me grab it. I should have had a marker here. I'm in the wrong book. Come on, Sarah, pull it together. Matthew 16. Here we go. Jesus said to his disciples, if any of you wants to be my follower, you must turn from your selfish ways, take up your cross, and follow me. If you try to hang on to your life, you'll lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake, you'll save it. And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? So it just reminded me of that. You know, we're seeing that in the end of Revelation, right? That the people that belong to the world are going to experience a great terror. And Jesus is saying, like, don't hold on to the world. You're going to lose your soul. But there's something better. There's something better for us. And we're seeing that, you know, throughout Revelation, that God really wants us in his kingdom, and he wants us in heaven with him, and he wants good for us, but we have to choose him. He's not going to force it on us, you know, but he will warn us until there's no more warning left because we've made our choice. So anyway, those are some of the things that popped out at me in Revelation chapter 7 and 8. I hope you enjoyed that today. If you would like to chat about anything I shared today, I would love to have a conversation with you. So please feel free to reach out. You can comment on the video or shoot me a message. And if I don't hear from you today, I'll see you tomorrow. We're going to go through another couple chapters of Revelation, and I hope you won't miss it. Bye, guys.